traveling. I hope those things went well. We have breaking news. There has been rain in the Lowcountry. And there's more coming. And it's pretty incredible how much things have changed in that short amount of time. So the start of this rain means that the duck ponds are going to start transitioning to their winter pond status instead of being a summer, field, right? They're fields throughout the summer and fall. The canals have been holding some water so that the amphibians, the small insects are living in the water, and now we're going to start letting the rain do the start of the flooding, and we may have to augment it as the season goes. And you may have noticed we had a prescribed fire there a couple weeks ago. It's an okay fire, it didn't do as much as we want. Chris may do some more mowing to get things down in anticipation of this. So the rain starts some changes there. And then hopefully you've noticed around here that the resurrection ferns woke right back up again. The trees are lush and green. And of course Spanish moss woke back up again. And I want to make sure you know a whole bunch of things about Spanish moss, because it's cool. And I think you all probably know this, but it is not Spanish, and it's not a moss, right? It is in what family? The bromeliad family, the pineapple family, yeah. So it is in the family that includes those tropical bromeliads that hold a tank of water in the middle, have big strap-like leaves, and grow up in trees. So that whole family, including pineapples, has evolved to grow with roots that are anchors, and the water is held in seasonally dry areas inside that tank. But then a subgroup in that family have said, nah, that's too complicated, and gotten rid of their tanks. And those are the air plants that maybe you have in your house, you see in floral shops a lot. Those are very simple, spiky little plants. And the roots, again, are just there to hold the plant onto the tree. Well, then you go one step further with Spanish moss, and it said, I don't even need roots. It's just a growing set of stems, basically, that's covered in a structure called a trichome. A trichome is just a scaly thing that's there to keep herbivores from getting to the plant. So it's kind of a scaly thing that's resistant to herbivores. It also can be a place that you store chemicals that would keep animals from coming onto the plant. That's where THC and CBD are found in marijuana, for example. Those are trichomes, but in most plants they're simple, stiff scales. And in the case of the Spanish moss, it's a little thing that looks like an upside down umbrella. And it's just a little gray structure that sticks up, and then when it rains, it absorbs water and lies flat and forms a tube along the surface of the plant and lets water flow and rehydrates the plant like that. So there's no vascularization. There's nothing going on inside the plant with water flow. It's all on the surface. How cool is that? So that structure is hiding that there is a green plant inside. It is a green plant with gray scales on the surface of it. And while we're talking about those, I got to remind you that there's no chiggers in Spanish moss. This is an old story that goes around. Maybe some Spanish moss that's fallen on the ground. If you pick that up, you could get chiggers, but up in the trees, entomologists have studied it, and it's not an issue. Also, it's not killing the plants. It is taking some of the minerals from the leaves of the plants that let it out. You might be unsurprised to learn that oaks leach out lots of minerals and pines don't. You see lots of Spanish moss in oaks, but not in pines. But it doesn't have to have that, because you've also seen Spanish moss growing on telephone poles and power lines and all that, so it doesn't need all that. But remarkable plants, and you can see all kinds of seasonal change and rehydration happening in these. And of course, I'll tell you about them again in March and April when they flower, because it is a flowering plant. So stay tuned for that. All right, so tonight we have a speaker that I'm very eager to hear what he's got to say. He's a lifelong beachcomber, and our speaker has spent a lot of time on the beaches with his family and has published a field guide that is a Beachcomber's Guide to Fossils with his parents. So those are the three authors of the book. The book is here for sale if you want to do a purchase and put it on your account. See Sloan, who will be here after the talk as well. So there's about 20 copies, so those may sell out. But this all is combined from personal experience with beachcombing with his family, and he's also been very focused on learning as much as possible. So in that direction, he went to Appalachian State University and has a degree in environmental science. He then went on to be an interpretive ranger at Edisto Beach State Park, got to know Sloan Wiggers there, so they've known each other for quite a while. And at Edisto, he curated the collection of Pleistocene vertebrate remains and became their leading authority on paleontology. Today, he's chief paleontologist and owner of Charleston Fossil Adventures, a fossil finding tour company. And I appreciate their attitude of, if you find a really interesting fossil, let's actually save it for posterity where researchers can get access to it rather than going into private collections. They found some really cool stuff, like some inner ear bones that I think you'll be hearing about tonight. And if you ask Ashby about his favorite fossil in his collection, it's like asking me my favorite bird. You can't do it. But he does report that his top three include a tooth from a Sar ornitholestes, which I'm sure you know what we're talking about, a baby mammoth molar, and an articulated set of eagle ray teeth with feeding wear facets. So you're going to hear a lot about those things and much more, and it's my pleasure to turn it over to Ashby Gale.
Can everyone hear me? Yep. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Andy. And I do have to correct you on one thing. You said we were celebrating birds last week, but we were actually feasting on dinosaurs last week because birds are avian dinosaurs. So glad to be here. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Sloan. Thank you, Michael, and Spring Island Trust for having me out. Again, my name is Ashby Gale. I'm the owner of Charleston Fossil Adventures. We'll talk a little bit about that, as well as a bit of my background here. And today we're going to be digging into the past of our prehistoric Palmetto State and discovering some things dating back as old as 30 million years, which I always like to say, fossils help make us feel really, really young, because we are very, very young. As Andy kind of touched on, I did get my degree in environmental science up at App State. That's one of three traditional pathways that paleontologists will go through. You'll actually be hard-pressed to find a paleontologist whose diploma says paleontology or Bachelor's of Science in Paleontology. It's going to be environmental science, geology, biology, evolutionary biology, one of these few fields. So after that, came down here. I grew up on the coast of South Carolina, so I really wasn't sure that I would actually be coming back, but my journey brought me back here. Worked as the program specialist and then interpretive ranger there at the state park, and dealt with a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight, prior to specializing into some of the older fossils. Basically, turn of the year, 10 years ago, launched this company. I've been working with it as my full-time job ever since. Still doing the environmental and educational outreach for folks, so I'm always glad to come out, especially to groups such as you guys, and really help, tell you a little bit more about what's lying beneath our feet. For some of my own research interests, I'm going to throw this word out a lot tonight, the Oligocene. Just know when I say that, I'm talking about stuff 24 to 30 million years old. So we had sawfish living around here, animal with big hedge trimmer-like nose, slashing around. We don't have it in our waters here today, but we had a little bit more of a tropical climate because we were under a lot of water during the Oligocene. So presented on that over in Australia at the annual Conference of Vertebrate Paleontology. I'm also currently studying and did a presentation on some microfossils, so stuff smaller than the smallest tooth in this case. If you saw this at the beginning, there's a lot of itty-bitty shark teeth in there. We were looking at stuff that are like sub-millimeter in scale. So presented on that up in Asheville at the Geological Society convention. And then also do a lot of research with ecotourism and how, like Andy mentioned, we can ensure that scientifically significant finds stay within the field for study, specifically within collections. And so some of our clients have found, like you mentioned, the inner ear bone, the periodic bone in the skull of a dolphin. So if anyone here has vertigo, like me, you lean over and you start to feel woozy, that's crystals of calcite knocking around in your cochlea. That's the periodic bone, houses the cochlea inside dolphin skulls. Actually, the Nature Center has a dolphin skull. I saw that. They probably have the periodic attached to it. That little bone we found from a porpoise, 3 separate times. First fossil record of porpoises in the entire Atlantic coast, right here in South Carolina. Those ear bones went off to Vanderbilt University to be CT scanned because we can learn a lot about early echolocation of dolphins through those bones. So wouldn't have had that record had the clients, the 3 separate clients over 10 years, not donated them. So I really enjoy talking a lot about that, and got a really big publication coming up next year that may or may not involve a new species. So we'll keep our eyes out. We'll post all about it on our social media whenever that comes out. So real briefly, launched my company 10 years ago. It's gone through a lot of logo iterations. We did a lot of beach walking, kayaking out to fossil sites, and we deal with a lot of fossils that are what we call ex situ. That's basically where dirt has been dug up, dumped somewhere else, and now these fossils have been washing around on the beach, and they don't have that geologic context anymore. So scientifically, significance diminishes a little bit, but in certain specific instances, we can have some that are still significant. So that's how we're able to collect them, how our clients are able to keep them and go home with them. Just got my captain's license, so certified Coast Guard captain. Been leading it by boat ever since 2022. Yeah. If you want to know more information about that, I do have brochure cards and business cards up here that you're more than welcome to grab at the end. And lastly, you've heard about it, Andy talked about it, the field guide that I published with my parents has over 1,200 full-color images that I took. We worked 6 years, me and my family, to publish things, including things that aren't even fossils, that are commonly picked up. Saw a couple of those at the ID session before the talk tonight. So if you are interested, full southeastern coverage on the book, over 300 fossils, 1,200 images, and Sloan will get you squared away and I'll get you autographed. So got a lot to cover tonight. I know a lot of you like getting out of here at 7. I heard I got to stop at 6:45 for questions. So with that, we're going to get into it. Paleontology goes back a long, long ways. And so, paleontology, are we going to be talking about human remains with that? No. I'm going to do a lot of call and response. I'm going to actually have you guys come up here at some point during the talk. So don't be shy, please. So paleontology, extinct animal life on this planet. Other thing people get this confused with is archaeology. So, study of human remains on this planet. And then the third one they get it confused with is anthropology. Study of human culture, human technology, human ideas and innovation, transmission of those ideas, religions, all kinds of stuff within anthropology. So tonight we'll be focusing on paleontology. I know a little bit about archaeology and anthropology, but my main field is right up here. And believe it or not, dinosaurs are not my specialty. So, before we get into kind of the animals, it's helpful to unpack some what I call myth conceptions that a lot of people have about fossils, especially when we're talking about things we find on beaches here in the Southeast. So, fossil myth conception number 1 is that the shark teeth we find on beaches today come from sharks that are out there swimming in the ocean. All right? So that's kind of one of those myth conceptions, and we're going to kind of dissect these and make these statements true once we uncover a little bit more that helps us understand what's going on. Fun facts about tooth shapes you're seeing right here. Great white shark, nice big serrated steak knife for tearing into marine mammals, thick muscle fiber. We got this like smooth knife edge of a dagger of a tooth. That one is a mako shark. Tiger shark, generalist feeder, eats anything and everything. It's the one that Hooper pulls the license plate out of the stomach in Jaws. That did happen. That's based on real stuff, tires, license plates, all kinds of stuff in tiger shark stomachs. And then these guys over here, we're looking at the bull and the dusky sharks. So similar to the great whites, but just not as coarse on the serration count. Now, fossil myth conception number 2 is that the color of a fossil tells us what? Anyone want to give us?
Age?
Color tells us age, so we got a lot of different colors here. Well, we're going to do an activity to try and unpack what's going on with the color of the fossil. So, these are 4 teeth that I personally have collected, so I know where they came from, what rock they came out of, and kind of the general state of them. So our first tooth from a shark called Carcharodon carcharias. We're going to use nice big scientific names just for a little bit. So A and B, same species of shark, okay? Shark tooth C from Otodus angustidens, all right? And then shark tooth D from Carcharodon histalis. We see half of that name pretty similar to the 2 down there on the far left. So we're going to go through, I'm going to have you guys vote with a raise of hands as to which you think is the oldest. Then we're going to clear the board and you're going to vote which you think is the youngest. All right? So who wants to raise their hand and vote as A as the oldest tooth up here? Anyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. B is the oldest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C is the oldest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And D is the oldest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right. We're going to reset the board and go youngest. I'll give you a hint. Don't vote for the same tooth. So, who thinks A is the youngest tooth? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Who thinks B is the youngest? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. C is the youngest tooth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And D is the youngest tooth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right. We're going to clear the board. We'll reveal the oldest tooth up there first in 3, 2, 1. Followed by B and D, our next youngest, which leaves A as the youngest too. So, what was going on here? What tripped us up on figuring this out? A lot of different things we can look at. So, color. I heard color. All right, so color. We have one distinctly differently colored tooth than the rest.
And the serrations.
Serrations. We've got 2 super jagged great white shark teeth right here. This guy does have serrations. It's hard to tell in this picture. And then this guy doesn't have serrations. What else is different? The top, the thing called the root. That's right. So the top part, we got a root here on D, got a root here on A, missing a root on B and C. What else? There's one other thing people like to point out.
Curve.
The what?
Curve.
Okay, we have different shapes to them. D is much more curved than A, B, and C. One other thing.
The tip point.
The tip. Yes, we got tip, 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 no tip. So, the biggest one is color. People get tripped up on the color of a fossil all the time. And ironically, this one that I'm holding right now came from someone you might know, Mr. Bruce Lambright. This is the what? Oh, sorry. Yes, sir. Up here? Okay, all right. So this is a rib bone from an extinct manatee relative called a dugong. Now, what I love about this is you've got white right there, you've got black and white right there, and when you polish that inside, you've got brown. So I've got 3 colors on this one bone. So which color do I use to tell how old it is? Color tells us what happened to the fossil while it was being fossilized, or minerals that were surrounding it. Also, the things after it was fossilized. So those white lines running against it can happen from plant roots, they can happen from different streaks of clay, or other channels of water moving through sediment, leaving all of that stuff on the surface, as you saw on that polished end. So our color determined by sediment, and we're going to take a closer look at that in a little bit. All right, and then lastly, fossil myth conception number 3 is that shark teeth fall out of a shark's mouth and turn black. This is a true statement, but not in the sense that a lot of people tend to think of. So we got, lots of different species represented here, and some light yellow tan ones from Morocco mixed in. So, general process of fossilization. For something to end up on my table, what's the first thing that has to happen to it? It has to die. Unfortunately, Mr. Dinosaur over there, maybe he ate too much at the buffet. He croaked there at the edge of the river. Now, paleontologists, if we could control things, we would want everything to end up in this next phase. So, aside from the skin and the flesh and the muscle being gone, sorry, I just gave you the answer. Aside from it being underwater, what's happened to it? What's the good scientific word for that?
Rot.
Rot, okay. Longer than 3 letters. Decomposition and decay. Yes, all right. So ideally, we want decomposition to happen very quickly. And in that same time period, we want this to get covered up with either sediment or slow-moving still water. We have a lot of pond turtle fossils that wash up in Ice Age deposits, and a big reason for that is because, 1, pond turtles have a lot of bone that can fossilize in the first place. That's helpful. 2, they literally live in the most ideal setting to fossilize. That pond turtle croaks, sinks down to the bottom of the pond. Now he's sitting down here in soft sediment away from oxygen for bacterial decomposition and away from scavengers that might rip its body apart. So we want that decay and being covered up with slow-moving water or sediment to happen really quickly. What about in our third column?
Pressure.
Okay, pressure's one thing that can happen during this phase. Burial, I heard it. There we go. We've gotten a lot of rock, a lot of dirt laid on top of our dinosaur fossil. We want those bones to be buried with sediment really, really well. This is the kind of meat and potatoes of the fossilization process. At minimum 10,000 years happening during this time. So that is kind of the minimum age for fossils from the Ice Age for all of that to occur.
Why aren't they crushed?
Okay, and I will say I'm going to have questions at the end as well, but why aren't they crushed is a good question. They can infill. I've got a bird bone right here that filled in with rock, and so that sediment helps support the bone. We do get a lot of crushed bones, and so in the fossil preparation stage, these things are being what we call jacketed. They're being wrapped up in plaster in the dirt where they were found, carried off to the museum, and then all those little teeny tiny pieces, it's a 3-dimensional puzzle for it to go back together. So often we find way more pieces than we do complete bones, because they are crushed. But if they stay in place, we can put them all back together. What's happening now to the dirt on top of our skeleton? Ah, yes, erosion, and this one doesn't really show it, but uplift, mountain building can also occur. Bring these things up closer to the surface for erosion to uncover it. And then lastly, what are our team of paleontologists doing? Excavation, exactly. So the tip of that dinosaur's skull was exposed, gave them a clue as to, hey, there might be a skeleton here, and they're excavating it. Like I mentioned, here in the Lowcountry, we have to rely on man-made activities to actually do the exposure and excavation. So a lot of our shorelines only have fossils on them because they've been renourished with sand that came out of, say, Savannah Harbor or a few miles offshore, like the case of Folly Beach. So we went through the general process of fossilization, and that's cool because these things wound up on this table because they fossilized. But it takes a lot to get through this process and get here on the table. And that's why we're going to play a little game here to show you just how hard it is to fossilize. And I think you all should be relatively familiar with the game. Because, come on down, you're the next contestant on Fossil Plinko! So, fossilizing is very similar to Plinko. So I created this game for educational outreach so that you can really comprehend just how hard it is to turn into a fossil in the first place. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to take volunteers. We're going to run through several volunteers, and we're going to see how many fossils we get. Okay? So raise your hand if you would like to go. We have someone brave person. All right, right here. Come on down. All right, what's your name?
Yeah, Dave.
Dave. All right, Dave. Nice to meet you. All right, Dave. I want you to give this wheel right here a good spin. All right. Dave landed on the number 2. So you get 2 chances to fossilize, all right? Hey, that's twice as many in real life, so you're doing pretty good. All right, let's go over here. So, Dave is going to get 2 little teeny tiny ping pong balls that represent 2 chances to fossilize. These things are going to work their way down through the topsoil, through the Ice Age layer, through the Pliocene, where Megalodon was big, through the Miocene, where Megalodon came from, and through the Oligocene, that 24 to 30 million year old bottom layer of rock that we have here in the Lowcountry. Now, I know it's hard to see because this is at ground level, but we have a little yellow slot right in the middle, just like on Plinko, where you get $10,000 now, or 25. I think it's gone up. That's how you fossilize. Anything else happens to you, you don't fossilize. So, let's give Dave some encouragement and see where he winds up. Oh! So Dave died on a beach. Not a bad way to go, but not the way you want to go to fossilize. Oh, get back in the middle! So Dave decayed. So if you decay too quickly, you don't fossilize. Thank you for playing, Dave. All right. Who's next? Who wants to fossilize? Right here. All right, and what is your name?
Wendy.
Wendy, all right. Wendy, give that wheel a good spin, and let's see where you wind up. All right. Let's see. Wendy gets 11 chances. All right.
Okay.
10, 11. All right, I'll give you 5 to start, and let's see where you wind up. Oh, Oh, you got scavenged. So if you're eaten by hyenas, not fossilized. Oh, died on a mountain. Exposure to UV rays bleaches out our bones, they decompose. Oh, you got scavenged again. Oh, died in the desert. Again, UV rays, not good. Oh, died in the rainforest. Too moist, too much bacteria there. Huh. This is hard, huh? Yeah. Got eaten. That's not going to fossilize good.
Flippers.
Yeah, that's fossil plinko, you know? Decayed. Scavenged again. The vultures got you this time. Eaten. Died on a beach. There you go.
Come on, Wendy.
Oh, last one? Last one? Come on. Died on a mountain. Thank you for playing, Wendy. All right, let's have one more. All right, yes, right here. Come on down. What's your name, Dancy. All right, excellent. Dancy, give that wheel a good spin. Yeah, that's a good spin. All righty. Let's see. 8 chances. All right, that sounds promising.
Hey! All right, Dancy.
All right, here's your first 4. Let's see where you end up. Oh, straight to the edge and died on a beach. Hugging that edge still. No, died on a mountain.
That's okay too.
Oh, stay in the middle, stay in the middle, stay in the middle. Ah, decayed. No, that one's not fun. Yes. Oh, get back. Eaten. So next 4. Let's see. Pass this fork. Eaten. That's a trick ball. Get back in the middle, man. Eaten again. Hungry hands out.
Knock it.
Eaten for a 3rd time. Let's see, right down the middle. Washed into a river. So this river, specifically we're thinking whitewater rapids, slamming the bones around on the rocks. So not a slow-moving river.
Wow.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Good job. So that just shows how hard it is to fossilize. And believe it or not, less than 1% chance of turning into a fossil. You really have to be in the right environment for fossilization to occur. So let's look at why the Lowcountry is so prevalent in fossils. One of the big questions a good scientist asks when they go out into the world is why? So, right here, we've got a time period that a lot of books focus on, a lot of people are familiar with, time period called the KT boundary, the Cretaceous-Tertiary boundary. And 65 million years ago, of course, what was the big event that occurred? Ooh, no, a lot further back than Ice Age. Yeah, we have a big giant rock hurtling down here off the northwest coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, slams down there into the coastline, causes the global extinction of all terrestrial dinosaurs. So a lot of people ask, why don't we have dinosaur fossils here in the Lowcountry? Well, here's South Carolina. Here we are down here on Spring Island. And you can see we're under quite a bit of water. Coastline's up there to Columbia. We were probably under about 200 feet of water when T-Rex was roaming around on land. So, no T-Rex fossils here in the Lowcountry. And in fact, the closest layer that has dinosaur material here, you'd have to go over 150 feet deep in the ground to get to it. And even then, it's going to be marine reptiles from that time period, so not even true dinosaurs. So let's cut to the point where we do get fossils. Cut that time in half, again, to that funny word, the Oligocene, 30 million years ago. And you can see, Lowcountry is still pretty much underwater. They don't call us the Lowcountry for nothing. 50 to 200 feet of water covering us during this time period. So let's cut that time in half again. We get to the Miocene epoch. Of course, 15 million years ago, big predator roaming through the seas, Megalodon. So we had Megalodon swimming overhead, again, light blue indicating quite a bit of water overhead. You're like, geez, Captain Ash, this is getting boring. We're always water. Let's make it interesting. 3, 2, 1, Ice Age. 3, 2, 1. Big difference. Florida joined the scene and said, hey, here I am. We have this big giant sheet of ice covering all of Canada, basically extending down into the middle of Ohio. 1 to 2 miles thick sheet of ice, vertical scale there. An incredible amount of water locked up in glaciers, which is why we had our coastline suddenly shoot out. Now, this helps explain when we look at bones that wash up on the beach from terrestrial animals that are caked in oysters and bryozoan, ocean critters on these land animal fossils. This helps explain why they're washing in from the ocean, because if we were to go, let's say, to the nearest port, we'll go to Port Royal and stare out into the ocean, we would be looking 30 to 50 miles further out to sea, but it would be a big grassy savanna with things like bison and horses and camels and saber-toothed cats roaming around.
Wait, where's that?
So any coastline here today, if we stare off into the ocean, think an extra 30 to 50 miles of land going further out. Any offshore fishermen, you think about going over the continental shelf, all of that would have been land. So it's incredible to think about. So let's watch what happens when our ice sheets melt. And we're going to go 3, 2, 1 present day. I want you guys looking at New Orleans, Florida, and the Yucatan Peninsula for the biggest change. All right, so we'll go 3, 2, 1 present day. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, we see a coastline of what we have today. We lost a lot of land here around New Orleans. We lost a lot of land around the Yucatan, around Florida, and those 30 to 50 miles got cut in here in South Carolina. So, and honestly, the Outer Banks of North Carolina, that would have all been grasslands too. These are super, super young geologic pieces of the coast. So, lots of terrestrial animal fossils wash in from the ocean naturally in some places like northern Florida and here in the Lowcountry because of those deposits offshore. So let's look at the how, because we saw that it's incredibly hard to turn into a fossil. Let's look at how it turns into the fossil. So for that, I always like to pull up a couple of food items that you might come into contact with today. Starting off your day strong with a bowl of cereal. I've always liked to equate the bone, let's get into a lit up area, there you go. The bone as a Cheerio in that bowl of Cheerios, okay? To help think about this analogy. And let's see if the spring water mentions it. Oh, it doesn't. Does anyone else have any disposable water bottle in here, by any chance? Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm glad. It's a trick question. No. So we're going to imagine our bone is a Cheerio floating in a bowl of cereal. Now, that first bite of cereal, really crunchy. It's my favorite bite of cereal. And I try and eat my cereal as quickly as possible because the longer Cheerios sitting there. The more and more milk they absorb, till that last spoonful you get is usually all soggy Cheerios that have just soaked up all the milk. It's my least favorite bite. Eat it as quickly as possible to avoid that. So, let's imagine this bone gets deposited in the layers of this really interesting layer cake that may not be quite tasty. Looks more like Play-Doh than cake, but this bone works its way down, and it's in that burial phase of the process of fossilization. Now, this bone is a Cheerio. It works its way down into the groundwater table. Now, what can groundwater carry within it?
Minerals.
Minerals, excellent. And so usually, if I don't have spring water, I will usually have purified water that has minerals added for taste. Now, what are minerals?
Inert.
Okay, good, all right, yeah, we got inorganic, we got rock. I heard rock over here.
Dissolved rock.
It's dissolved rock. So you think of, calcium, we get in there too. You think of chocolate chip cookies? You can't have a chocolate chip cookie without chocolate chips. That's just a basic fact of life. That's just a cookie without chocolate chips. So our rocks they can't be rocks without minerals. Minerals are components that make up rocks. So we have water with dissolved rocks in it. We have our Cheerio getting buried down into the ground. Our Cheerio gets full of that dissolved mineral-rich water, so the milk. That water leaves. Over a period of 10,000 years, the process of mineral-rich water entering and leaving, some of those bits of rock that are dissolved will do what we call precipitate. They'll fall out of solution, so going from being solid, going from being liquid to going into solid. So I've been holding this bone here for this whole demo. This is, if you look at the back of your hand, this is the metapodial bone of an Ice Age horse. So the toes essentially come right down here. This thing has this gray part sticking out of it. That is a rock that infilled the bone over a period of 10,000 years of dissolved minerals coming in, falling out of solution, and then water exiting. Yes?
Why don't the minerals, what's the word I want? Erode or damage that and disintegrate it versus solidify it?
So we think back to how easy it was to turn into a fossil over here. 99%, a lot probably do. We're looking at the rare miracles of fossils that actually survive. So some, it's a relatively gentle process, honestly, of those minerals kind of falling out of solution. That's not to say that plenty were lost to poor mineralization. So that's how cake and Cheerios can tell us how a bone turns into a fossil. So our last bit before we get back to fixing our myth conceptions, let's look at this lovely slice of rock that I saw when I was driving in Canada in Alberta. It shows different periods of oxygenation in our world's oceans, which is why the rock is different colors. We're going to go back to our shark teeth. Let's say I park my car and I scale up that cliff and I excavate a turtle out of that band right there. I date it to 25 million years in the rock. Let's say I go down a little deeper. Generally speaking, in geology, the deeper you go, the older things get. So, date that rock, it's 30 million years, find a crocodile fossil in there. Let's say I want to try and find the youngest fossil in the cliff, and I wind up in that lighter gray layer. I find another turtle, that one's 20 million years. And I'm like, okay, let's find the oldest fossil on this cliff, go down here to that red layer, find another crocodile, that one's at the very bottom, 35 million years. But what you'll notice is that each of the fossils, the color of them corresponds to the layer of the rock that they're coming out of. So I always say, if you remember nothing else from tonight's talk, please remember that color does not determine the age of a fossil, just the rock that it came from. So I've got a little dolphin vertebra right here that is tan, 124 million years old. I've got a tooth from a large animal we're going to talk about here in a little bit that is from the Ice Age. This thing's about 100,000 years old. So dark black, older than light tan. You have to know the animal, you have to know the rock deposit that it came from. That's two very, very important things. So, looking back at our myth conceptions and correcting our statements. Myth conception number one, the shark teeth we find on beaches today come from currently living sharks. We would amend this statement to, they come from sharks that were alive at least 11,000 or 10,000 years ago. So these are ones that actually fossilized. Myth conception number two, the color of a fossil tells us not how old it is, but rather it tells us what rock formation preserved the original bone or tooth. And lastly, shark teeth fall out of a shark's mouth and turn black. Well, they do, but they have the possibility of fossilizing if deposited in the right conditions. And so the black aspect is the fact that most of our southeastern deposits have these black rocks right here that preserve the fossils. This is called phosphate. And so most of the phosphate nodules form offshore in the ocean. The ones that do form in the ocean and they stay out there, when they wash in, they're usually this solid dark black. Phosphate that gets deposited up on land and stays out of the ocean environment is often a much lighter color. And there's a whole cultural side of phosphate that could easily be a whole evening's talk in and of itself about why it's significant for South Carolina. So, we're going to get into the who, and not the band, but the animals. So, we're going to turn now to the Wheel of Fossils. This is a little bit of an Easter egg for anyone who might have seen our social media pages. We do something every Friday with this wheel, uncovering fossils in my private collection that ultimately go to be donated. This tells us what drawer to open. Today, it's going to tell us what animal am I talking about next. So, who would like to determine what I'm going to talk about next? Anyone? Yes, right here. Come on up, let's see what animal we're talking about. Give it a good spin too, make sure it goes all the way around. Alright, perfect. We are talking about fossil number 8. Thank you very much. So, fossil number 8. Ooh, this is a good one. We're talking about dire wolves. Yeah. So this is not a fictional creature. This is was a real life animal that lived here during the Ice Age. One of the most famous sites for dire wolves is right here in the La Brea tar pits in LA. And if you haven't been, I highly recommend going. They have a wall with 400 dire wolf skulls that represent the over 4,000 individuals of dire wolves that they have found in the tar pits. And on the, on the surface, you're like, why are so many carnivore fossils in the tar pits? Does anyone have a hypothesis?
That's why they want to eat.
Yeah, they saw
An easy meal.
They saw an easy meal. So here you have Mr. Columbian Mammoth walking around, grazing on grass, and suddenly his leg gets stuck out there. And suddenly he gets another leg stuck, and suddenly Mr. Mammoth can't move. Then you have a pack of saber-toothed cats or dire wolves that come along, and they're like, hey Ted, you see Mr. Mammoth stuck over there? He's not moving. That's a whole month's worth of food. Let's go eat them. So you have one mammoth and a pack of carnivores that come in and they get mired down in the mud too. So that process repeated over thousands of years has provided the tar pits with just an incredible assemblage of dire wolves. Now, of course, this is not a picture of a dire wolf. This is one of our modern wolves. We've got a skeletal comparison down here on the left, one of our modern wolves. On the right, one of the dire wolves. And most recently, I love it when things in the pop culture allow me to update a slide. Most recently, Time Magazine released this lovely little cover, and it's like, dire wolves, not extinct anymore because this one is a dire wolf. Well, there were scientists out there that used dire wolf DNA, or they used wolf DNA and a little bit of dire wolf DNA, and they tried to kind of bring back the dire wolves. And they brought back these two white, fluffy puppies of wolves, and they were very, very nice. There's one problem. One, dire wolves extinct because they use DNA from modern wolves, which is a completely separate genus than the dire wolves. The dire wolves are Anacyon, and that's one of the things that unfortunately hadn't happened by the time we published our book, which is why we put taxonomic update cards in them, because we published it as Canis dirus and not Anacyon dirus. So science is constantly updating itself. Dire wolves are just one great example of that. Their fossils are really rare, so I don't have a bone or two on this table. So let's spin the wheel and see what animal is next. Takers, takers, takers. Don't be shy.
You said it, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We got volunteer? All right. Can't land on that one. All right. Excellent. That's sticking on the yellow. It hadn't flipped over there. We're looking at number 11. Let's see what number 11 is. Ooh, good one. This is Pelagornis. Pelagornis looks kind of like an albatross or just some like really cool seabird, until you realize that Pelagornis's wingspan is 24 feet. So this column to this column that's about 25 feet. So 6 foot tall human, Pelagornis. This is the largest bird alive today, the royal albatross, with an 11 to 12 foot wingspan for comparison. Now, Pelagornis is what we call a pseudo-tooth bird. So this jawbone right there looks pretty scary. Looks like it has a lot of weird teeth in it. And in fact, here's like a nicer picture of essentially what I'm holding. These are not teeth. These are centers of bone growth within the jawbone that is like a regular bird, just a plain old jawbone. But there were areas that the cells in that bone essentially said, hey, we need to grow a little taller. And over time, this became incredibly advantageous for Pelagornis because this is a bird that soars over open waters and snatches up fish. And so by having a little bit of extra something to grab onto those fish, you're going to start selecting for larger and larger bony bits sticking up through your jaw. So Pelagornis, 24-foot wingspan, false teeth. We can find them 30 million years back in the fossil record, but here's the mind-blowing bit. Early humans saw this bird. This thing was here 1 million years ago. So it's one of those things, if I had a time machine, I wouldn't travel to see dinosaurs. I'd travel back 1 million years to be in the Ice Age for the parallels between today, because we'd have white-tailed deer walking around, but then you'd have this thing flying in the sky, and it's like, it's incredible. I love it. All right, let's get another spin. Let's see what our next animal is. Yes, come on down. All right, we got animal number 9. We're going to flip on over. Oh, good one. We're going to talk about the sharks. Megalodon family. So, Megalodon, of course, is like the T-Rex of the shark world. He's got the biggest teeth. This one on the board, sitting about 4.8 inches. The one in my hand, 5.9. This guy has a lineage dating back to when the dinosaurs were alive. And so this little display, the one on the far left, that particular one is a 60 million year old tooth. and that's one of his earliest ancestors. They were here 75 million years ago too. So big extra teeth, cusplets on the side. Over time, let's advance through our lineage there. Over time, that tooth size did increase, and the extra teeth on the side, called cusplets, were reduced until they were gone. So what these things are they're there to grab onto prey that might escape between the gaps in your teeth. By the time you're eating things that aren't small fish, you're eating dolphins and whales and big swordfish, nothing gets out of your teeth anymore, so you lose those extra teeth and you have really, really big ones. Now, Megalodon also saw an increase in serration. His earliest ancestors did not have serrated teeth because there were no marine mammals in the oceans at that time. They were literally eating marine reptiles and big fish. Now, again, another update to the book. It's only been out 5 years and we already have so many updates. Here's an image of Megalodon at about 60 feet looking like a great white shark. Possibly 2 problems with that depiction. And again, 6 foot tall human up there for scale. And great white. But recent study came out this year, in fact, this spring, that Megalodon might have looked more like a lemon shark rather than a great white. A little bit more of a streamlined body. You think of something like a whale shark. They have a much more streamlined body. They're about 45 feet long, super big shark. They can't be this big torpedo bullet-shaped thing with a big body like that. The researchers looked at the biggest vertebrae that we have of Megalodon, and they compared that with other sharks, and they put that tape measure out and extrapolated based on that and the ones we know the size, how big would that Megalodon have been? They went from it being about 60 feet long, which is corner to corner in this room, is about 60 feet, add another 20 feet onto that. They are now estimating Megalodon at 80 feet in length on the larger end of things, with teeth 6 to 7 inches long. So it's, again, one of the things I really enjoy about science constantly updating is things like that being added. Now, I'm going to force the hand on the wheel because I see I'm really running tight on time. Question-wise, please stick around. I'll be here as long as you want for questions. But, you know, we've kind of been sitting here with an elephant in the room. Literally. So, we're going to take a look, our last animal, we're going to take a look at the Columbian mammoth, Manny the mammoth. It's not woolly mammoths here in the Lowcountry. These were Columbian mammoths. They looked a lot like elephants, so not a lot of fur on that body. Sparse hairs. So our woolies looked a lot shaggier, right? Now, I kind of gave away the size here. You can see me standing at the same ground level. This is not elevated in any way. My head coming across right up here to just above the elbow of that mammoth. Big 12-foot long tusks and supporting that whole body are legs. So this is a 3-foot long humerus, upper arm bone, that washed up the same day that this vertebra that we looked at earlier washed up, the same day that a tibia, the lower leg, washed up, all within 100 feet on a beach after Hurricane Irma. And everyone has all of its pieces still together. So, yeah, it's I unfortunately was not the discoverer, but I assisted in the recognizing that, hey, all these things go together. I mean, you've got a pretty nice looking joint right there that connects just like that, and then this coming in right there. So Columbian mammoths, again, I'll try and go quick. I could talk all night about these things. They are really, really cool because, one, it's the first, unfortunately not the first fossil. It's the second fossil found in all of North America, but it is the first cool fossil because it has bones. So first fossil in North America was a scallop shell. Boo, invertebrates. first bony animal fossil was the Columbian mammoth. It was found by molar tooth, so like this. This is an adult tooth of a mammoth. This one's a cast, which is why I'm throwing it around. And it was found in 1725, right in Charleston, on one of the plantations. And the fact that I love the most is that the plantation owner had no idea what this thing was. To him, it probably just looked like a rock. But it was rather the enslaved Africans on the property who took one look at it and said, that's an elephant tooth. They know what these teeth look like. And so this is almost identical to the shape of our modern elephant teeth. Me and a gentleman were talking before the presentation about that, because they're grinding up grasses. And so our Columbian mammoths, we're walking around here. First vertebrate fossil discovered in North America, South Carolina's state fossil because of that. And that just was enacted into legislation in 2014. And when they're born, their teeth are a lot different than when they're adults. They're like little teeny tiny pine cones. So we need a part 2 because, again, we got a lot of other animals here, and I don't want to infringe on anyone's dinner reservations.
If folks have questions, please stick around. He's great with questions, and I'd encourage you to come up and speak with him, grab a book, and otherwise have a great time.
I'll autograph books. Check in with Sloan if you want a book. They'll handle all the fancy money into things, but you can walk away with it signed today. And feel free to grab any card or literature. Got decals up here as well.